Hello, everyone. This is Korath Landwalker, and this afternoon we have a couple hours of entertainment in the land of Star Citizen. Good afternoon, Legend. How are you doing today? I understand that the public test universe is a little cranky today. At least that's what I've heard. Let's go to the actual screen. There we go. Wide open. Oh, I hope that's a good sign. I am presently on the world of Microtech. You may have guessed that simply from reading the text of the stream title for today. I admit that unpredictable I am not. PTU is completely broken, almost unplayable. Ow! Well, it's a good thing they're finding this stuff out now. Here's to hoping that they manage to get it fixed before they push it live. Because that would make things uncomfortable. So, Microtech. I don't think I've really spent a whole lot of time here on the streams, mainly because I spend a lot of my time in Hurston. So, we'll take a quick look around, just get familiar with the environs around there. Part of my long-term Stanton tour. And I'm likely to get into some kind of trouble somewhere along the line because, well, shooting things is a welcome past, although you never know. Maybe I'll grab cargo just for giggles. Could go either way here. The habitation unit that you can log into at the landing zone of New Babbage is one of the nicer ones. Got a bed with a view, and it's daylight, so you do actually have a view of the city down there. And all the amenities, showers that you can't use, clothes on hangers that you can't use, sink that you can't use, coffee machine and cookies you can't interact with. Are you sensing a pattern here? Someday. I understand that private habitation units and private hangars are on the radar at some point, possibly this year. But as with everything on Star Citizen, I'll believe it when I see it. The habitation units here, incidentally, are known as the Aspire Grand Hotel. And it's the really big, tall building with a kind of a hole in the middle of it that you see from the exterior. I'll see if I can get a good angle on that when we depart here. I wonder what level I'm on. I don't recall seeing that pattern on the window before, so I must not be on this level very often. There are a lot of levels. Floor 4. There are a lot of floors here on the Aspire Grand. It is a nice view. If there's one, they really did a beyond good job when they developed New Babbage. Of all the landing zones that are currently in the game, it has to be my favorite as far as feeling, I don't know, alive, feeling like I'm in a, well, almost not quite an airport exactly, but in certainly a more pleasant environment than the more industrial area of Lorville or the urban environment of Arccore. The landing zone of Orison around Crusader is what I'm looking forward to seeing, though, because it's going to be basically Cloud City. So I'm expecting good things out of Orison. But for now, Microtech is where it is at. We've got a couple capsule lines, basically monorails. One heading to the spaceport, but we're going to take a quick stop at the Commons first. And we are going to be basically rushing through it because I'm pretty sure I did kind of go through this during the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo that rolled around in November. So we'll just do a fast stop there. Primarily because I want to pick something to drink, because you may have noticed on the lower left that my hydration level is at 51%, and I want to prepare for inconvenience. Oh, I wonder if we'll be able to skim the clouds, Crusader. Well, maybe. I think there's going to be a certain depth that you will be able to consider your lower limit, because gravity, pressure, crack open like egg. But the upper atmosphere? I would think it would be possible. So many things that I want to know about Orson that, unfortunately, is still going to have to wait till very likely. I'm going to guess August. That's my prediction. Dogfighting in the clouds would be awesome. You are not kidding, and especially if you can fly through the clouds. Can you imagine the sheer fun of being able to come out through a cloud to open fire on your target? Now, granted, it's not as impressive as it sounds, because usually you'll have radar contacts and all that before you actually have visuals. But the visual would be pretty cool. Okay, just a quick glance at the commons area. Basically, if I were to go this way towards New Babbage Plaza, I would get to the trade terminals, a couple of their important stores, like, say, armor, weapons, ship parts, that sort of thing. If I go to the right to the promenade, I'll head towards the stores like clothing, Whammers, the only place in the game where you can buy burgers. Burgers. And it has the bar. Wally's bar. Wally's. I don't know if it's just called Wally's Bar or Wally's something else. I can't remember. All I know is that it's Wally's something. Yes, blue drinks are on the radar here. That is what the section around here is going to center on. Here we have basically the exercise court and everything that is nauseatingly health conscious. So, for example, I believe these are the blue drinks that Legend is talking about, although I'm not 100% sure. Is it the Synergy drink you're looking at here? Or are you looking at a different blue drink? Because I know there's another different blue drink somewhere else around here. First, though, let's take off the helmet. Elroy's. Okay, it's the other blue drinks. Now, also you have here some handy Okay, it's actually a lot bigger than it looks. When you look at it just straight on, it looks like it's a flat kind of bar, but no, it looks like it's kind of in one of those plastic packages that you see at some places, at some cafeterias. So they actually do have a full sandwich in here. So I take it back. Cruise. Oh, that's the drink name. Right. Duh. I'm a little slow. Gas station sandwiches. Yes, that's exactly right. And here we are. Cruise. Let's get some more info on it so we can see why this is such a hyped drink by Legend over here. It's hypertrophic and hypometabolic. Yes, I realize that means almost nothing. Allow me to go into more detail. Hypertrophic and hypermetabolic. I'm going to go to my handy-dandy journal here and read up on better nutrition. Now, hypometabolic digests slowly, so you feel satisfied for longer. Hypermetabolic. Okay, I'm apparently mixing something up here somewhere. Hypertrophic, there we go, that's what I'm thinking. Hypertrophic, which means additional blood flow and nutrients to key muscle groups that make them perform optimally. That's the hypertrophic. And the hypermetabolic is it digests quickly. No, that's not right. What did it say? This is what happens when my brain doesn't remember these things. Because I'm busy doing the pattern here. Food and hydration in almost equal amounts. That's another big detail. I think that comes from the HEI and NDR. HEI, I'm pretty sure is hydration, and NDR, I'm pretty sure is nutrition. Let's get some confirmation on that, shall we? NDR is nutrition, HEI is hydration. So, there you go. Hypometabolic. Okay. So it digests slowly, making you feel satisfied longer. That sounded more accurate. So, now you know the perfect liquid to drink here at New Babbage. Tasty. Glug, 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 glug. We'll just tilt that thing back and just drink it down. Now, the downside is somewhere along the line they stopped allowing the hydration to be viewable when you had your helmet off. So I'm not going to know whether that was actually really, really useful until I get to my helmet again. Now, what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to find, there we are, the recycling bins. Must be conscientious here. New Babbage is very environmentally friendly. So we are going to put the empty bottle in the recycle bin. Now, grant you, I have no idea if it's supposed to go in the green or the gold, but you know, what do you want from me? Think it's back in 3.13, as well as seeing chat with the helmet off. That's good. What I'm not thrilled by, though, is I understand that the chat, or at least part of the chat, appears if you're in third person. So, proximity comm indicator, if you go in third person, usually it goes away. But I've seen streams where it's showing in PTU. Incidentally, you may have also noticed I'm currently changed up my color scheme for my uniform. Usually I tend to go with woodland green stuff, but I thought that I would try to stand out a little more lately, so I've gone Arctic. It's the same type of armor, still the Orc Mark 10, but it stands out a little more and hopefully will make it easier for people who I have to be working with to avoid shooting me to death thinking that I'm a bad guy. I'm looking at people who shoot me in the back of the head, Legend. Just saying. Although I probably should not still be harping on that, since after all, he hasn't shot me in the back of the head anytime recently. That might be just because of lack of opportunity. Okay, 82% hydration, 100% nutrition. We're in decent enough shape. And that's as far as we're going to be going around in here right now, because, well, we've done New Babbage. What we want to do is look around. Yeah, it wasn't Legend, it was a guy behind Legend. Yeah, that's it. He just looked remarkably lot like Legend when he was putting a bullet in the back of my head. Yeah, that's it. And how would I know it was him anyway? If it was in the back of my head, clearly I wasn't looking at him, so it could have been anybody.
Capsule now approaching station.
He's an innocent man.
Clear of disembarking passengers.
But now we're going to hop into the spaceport. The one thing I don't like about the capsules here is that unlike the bus at ArcCorps or the subway at Lorville, you can't actually sit down. These seats are here for show and nothing else. And it continues to aggravate me that you can't sit down. It's standing room only. I mean, they know how to do it. They've got the tech. They've done it in every other mass transit. Why don't they do that here? Okay, it's a pet peeve, I know. It's a little thing. It's not going to... There's nothing that's going to be done about it anytime soon, because there are more important things to work on like Orison and all that. But someday, I will be able to sit down on this thing. Okay, technically I could sit down by just an emote and sit on the floor, but come on. If I want to sit in a chair. Or bench, or what have you. Alright. So, we have a very clean atmosphere when go just about anywhere in New Babbage. I like reading some of these plant things too. There's one plant here that I wish existed in real life, which is supposed to generate. Basically, you're inhaling antihistamine. So dealing with allergies is a thing of the past. And man, I wish I had that sort of plant. That would be a kind of plant life that I could get behind. There's also a lot of elevators in New Babbage. That has its plus and minuses, because there have been times when the elevators don't work, and you find yourself stuck in one section of New Babbage or another. This happened during the expo, in fact, and there were people who were trapped in the commons and couldn't get anywhere. And there was a lively service of people using ground vehicles to transport people to and from the spaceport to basically get around that problem. Spaceport has all sorts of wonderful views here. It's got its own food section. You can rent starships here, and they tend to be on the more high-end quality. You can see it right here. Regal luxury rentals, where you can do things like combat interceptors. Okay, I admit that not everything fits here in the luxury idea. But you've got the 600i exploration luxury here. And that kind of surprises me, because I was almost certain that I would find the touring luxury available here. That would have been my guess. And there are some other things that don't really strike you as being luxury, like, you know, the Andromeda, the gunship. But it does have the Phoenix, which is the luxury variant. We're not going to be doing any rentals today. I just wanted to, you know, show them off. And of course, we have Legend's favorite fellow, Pico. Let's grab a Pico here. Next time you're on PTU, see if you can store Pico again. Once upon a time, you could store them, and because treat them like a mission item, and it would store. But you can't actually do that anymore, which is annoying. Oh, no, I just dropped them. Let me check my key bindings for a moment. Which one handled? Oh, well, it helped if I hit on foot as opposed to flight. Mission item 6. So that was what I hit. And unfortunately, instead of storing him somewhere in hammer space, Pico simply dropped. And that's something that I feel needs to be fixed. Personal reasons. Yes, Pico. I keep meaning to do a test with Pico to see what'll happen if I throw him into the refinery vats and see what happens in the molten steel. But it hasn't happened yet. I keep getting sidetracked. We are going to use a ship other than the 600i this time around. They broke it the last patch. Yeah, believe me, I'm very aware of that. I'm hoping maybe they got that fixed in the PTU. I'm not counting on it, though. Hangar 8, and yes, I dropped Pico again. What you really need to be able to do is put Pico in the crook of your armor. At least get him out of your face. Okay, where did I leave my ship? 8. Pick up Pico. Try to get in before they close the doors. Oh, just in time. Okay, let's try this. Haha. Let's decouple there. Thank God for free look. Usually I've been taking the 600i for my tours, but today we are going to take the Anvil Carrack, which is an exploration vessel. And might be just a shade larger than the 600i. Okay, by a shade larger I mean substantially larger. Not huge, but pretty roomy. I was fiddling around with this during the last week, and I kind of wound up with a little bit of damage that I need to repair. Unless it got repaired when I was offline. Things like that have happened before. Not often, but they do. You'll also see that the ship is big enough to store vehicles inside. I've got an Ursa rover stored here right now. That gives me some... Pico, get out of my face. There we go. We're gonna do this penguin in. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. And that time is coming sooner rather than later. Call elevator. Come on, habitation deck. There we go. Okay, that takes care of the hard part. We'll head up to the bridge. Pico is my co-pilot. Now, one of the handy benefits of the Carrack is also access to a medical bay, which will allow you to respawn if you end up accidentally dead. Medical gameplay is coming this year, theoretically speaking, and perhaps things will get more granular with all this stuff. But for now, it's basically a respawn point. Alright. Let's get in the pilot seat and start taking a look around the Ice Planet of Microtech. Okay, full disclosure, it's not really an ice planet. It's snowy, it has icy sections, but there are temperate areas around here too. Okay, looks like some damage is still there, although it doesn't look like the damage is in the same place. And it's still not giving me access to the maintenance services. Well, that's irritating. Okay, well, I'll just have to hope that I can get landing services somewhere else when I land. Knock on wood. At the very least, I should be able to break orbit.
You are clear to launch.
Now, because I'm in a fairly large ship, I have the overhead hangar doors as opposed to hangar doors in front of me. And they're pretty sluggish doors, honestly. That's where they tend to open up better than the ones that are horizontal. I'm kind of surprised. Alright, let's lift off. And we can get a nice view of New Babbage. And you see that building that's practically the center of my screen? Let me move my nose right to it. Right in the center of the screen here, that's the Aspire Grand I was speaking of. Let's get it a little closer. Now, there are some people, some really, I don't know if I want to call them brave. I've seen people fly very large ships through the middle of the Aspire Grand. I even saw a video where they were doing it with 890 jumps. Not that I would ever do such a thing. Really. Even though I'm flying an incredibly broken starship right now. Oh, they may have changed things up. Maybe it might be a restricted area and I might get autopiloted out at this point. Not that I would, you know, do this kind of thing. Oh, okay, now I'm seeing the damage that I expected to see on my display up there. You had your chance. Yes, you would have to be a... Oh, I may have another problem. I can't actually do that because my engines are making me lose altitude. Okay, entertainment attempt fails. I need to get out of orbit here, and I need to get to somewhere where I can actually fix this. Because I do not have enough thrust to do the sideways thing and remain at this proper altitude. I was never going to make it to the Aspire Grand. Now, Carrick is a nice looking ship. You can also see that they kind of, the accident also kind of damaged my hangar door up top. You can see my snub ship. The Carrick usually comes with a Anvil Pisces, but I find that for my needs, the Misk Razor fits in just fine. The color scheme, incidentally, is also not the default. This is the paint that was given to attendees of the November Expo last year. Carrick won the Best in Show, so it was one of the 4 starships that got the white and gold paint job available. I actually like the look. I mean, there was technically a white paint job before with the Expedition variant of the Carrick, but it was basically using a pink cockpit, and I couldn't bring myself to go with that. Gold I can handle. Pink, not so much. Okay, altitude is high enough that I am no longer in danger of being unable to use my quantum drive. So we are going to take a quick stop at Port Tressler, the orbital space station in geosync over New Babbage, or at least close enough to being over New Babbage. And if I'm lucky, I might be able to do the repair work here. If I'm not lucky, I'm going to say the heck with it and grab a different ship, because there's no need to try to deal with a damaged starship like that. The only thing is, Port Tressler is using the R&R station layout. The Expedition has pink on it. If you look at the cockpit, it kind of has a pinkish tinge. It doesn't have it on the main paint, but the cockpit glass has a pinkish tinge. And that was the reason I didn't ever consider going with the Expedition skin. Just no. If you look at the IAE one, you can see that it's kind of got a gold tinge on the cockpit glass. Well, it's possible that you don't get to see it. Yeah, you don't never notice it on yours, but how often are you looking at it in third-person view? I don't know if you notice the paint on the interior, because I sure don't notice the gold on the interior. It just looks like a normal glass. But from the exterior, you can see here that it's kind of a goldish color. For the Expedition, it's more pink. And while that's probably not all that big a deal, it annoys me, so that was why I went with the standard Carrick at the time.
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
Now, because we are going towards a space station that is using the standard R&R layout, that means the hangar doors here have a very real possibility of killing my ship. I'm going to have to be going in there at a much higher velocity than I want to be going in order to get inside before the doors close on the middle of my ship. I've got too much momentum going here. That's going to make life entertaining when I have to slow down. And of course, the doors may very well end up closing up before I get there. In fact, I know they will, because there's no way I can be moving at a fast speed and maneuver myself properly. And by the time I get there, those doors are going to close shut. Occupational hazards. Of course, blowing up my ship will also solve my problem. Of course, then I'll lose the Razor, the Rover, and Pico. So come on, hangar guys. Do it for the Penguin. You don't want to explode the Penguin, do you? He's just an innocent. I can't believe the doors are still open. I shouldn't have said that, because now I've just taunted fate. Alright, here we go. Those of the religious persuasion are encouraged to pray at this time. Okay, the good news is, and that's the bad news, but at least I didn't hit it at such a velocity that I broke the ship. More than I already have. Oh, landing gear. Must not forget landing gear. I've been doing that a lot lately.
Landing gear deployed. Landing complete.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
Now maybe these guys will repair my ship. Yes! They will fix the ship. Which is good news. And let's do the refuel too. Of course, there is some bad news here now. I've gotten in. Next I have to get out. And like I said, those hangar doors are mean. But since I'll be going out backwards, because I think they trigger based on your position, not necessarily the dimensions of your ship. And that means, since I'm going backwards, I will be the last one technically out of the hangar. I will dream. I will dream. While we're waiting for the fuel to go through, let's hop over to the map so we can take a look at some of the finer details and points of interest over at Microtech. Hopefully it'll be readable with the mess going on here. You'll see that Microtech is littered with data centers. Half the reason that the corporation Microtech purchased this planet was because they wanted to make use of the very, very cold environment to cool down their servers. Natural cooling versus artificial cooling? Sounded like a win. Plus, they've got some mining facilities. Now, one thing they don't tell you is that one of these data centers, and I think it's one of these two, one of these data centers has a terminal that can be hacked, where you can remove your criminal status if you have one. I don't remember which of the two it is. I want to say it's this one, but it could be this one. Can't remember which offhand. I usually do my research first, but yeah, there's one fuel taken care of. And there's the repairs. Excellent. We'll be able to head out momentarily. There's also some emergency shelters and the like. As I've done on other Stanton Tour details, we're going to grab some delivery missions that will allow us to go to a couple different places. Let's see. I'm trying to find one that will take me to the various moons here. Unfortunately, I am seeing a lot of Microtech, but very little in the way of its associated moons, at least not on one mission. I am disappointed. I am disappointed. I was hoping to have one that would take me at least to multiple moons. I guess one possibility is to take all the missions. We got Calliope accounted for. We've got Cleo accounted for. But I don't see Euterpe on here. They basically leaned heavy on Greek mythology here for the names of the moons. Or you know what? We'll just do one right now. We'll go to Calliope. Okay, so the pickup is at the Rayari Deltana Research Outpost, which is right there. So, step 1. Teleport Tresser, I'm ready to leave.
You are clear to launch.
Step 2, I'm going to adjust my camera view here so I can see the back end of the ship, kind of. Because I'm going to want to get out of here very quickly. Let's put a little English on here and get ourselves off the pad. And theoretically, I should be able to do a straight shot out of here. Open a little wider. That's as wide as it goes. Okay, backward flight. Please don't close. Please don't close. We are free and clear to navigate. You know, this has probably been the least offensive hangar door I've run into on one of these stations for a very long time. Okay, so let's take a look at what Microtech is like outside of New Babbage. And you can tell just by looking here that there's a lot of white. Snow, ice, all over the place. There we are. I was trying to figure out where the heck the Rayari was. One of the problems that you run into here is that you have often a kind of white, light blue heads-up display, and I'm putting this against a white environment. Hello, Fiendy! Space is here. Yes, how are you doing today? We are currently above the world of Microtech. Star Citizen's answer to Hoth, except not really. Because it's not exactly an ice planet, it just is really, really cold and has lots of icy parts, but there are some places that are more temperate than others. And we're going to take a little wander around the environs of Microtech, such as, well, basically the planet and the moons. And, of course, the package pickup is going to happen on the dark side of Microtech. Of course, I'm also flying in upside down. I'll fix that. I'll fix that. Because landing upside down is not recommended as a general rule. Okay, now that my ship is fixed, I can actually turn on the engines and expect the proper amount of thrust. We are flying the Anvil Carrick Exploration Starship. Ah, good. My hangar door is back too. Yeah, it's all good. If you wanted to think the Starship similar to Serenity, Carrick might come... it's not quite close because it's probably a little bit bigger. It doesn't feel as cramped as Serenity does. But it generally has spots for about the same number of crew, which tends to be about 6. Carrick has 4 turrets available, 2 co-pilot seats, and a pilot seat, and a command station, and various engineering bays, and drone bays, and a medical bay. Carrick is an exploration vessel, and it's designed to be able to go out into the hinterlands and make something out of itself. We are 10 kilometers away. Now, the nice thing about doing the delivery mission in the Carrick as opposed to the 600i is I don't have to worry about that cursed elevator getting in the way. Isn't this a nice big ramp? Alright, we are closing in pretty quickly. Hopefully any time now the floodlights will be showing the surface of... There we are. I think. Either that or visibility is about to go to pot. Oh, there we go. You can see the pine trees on the surface there. That's right. There is vegetation on Microtech. We are not in the temperate zone, however, which means it's probably going to be a tad chilly. Okay, let's orient ourselves so we'll land on the pad. Oops, gravity's kicking in. Let's try to keep from dropping like a stone. We're in a standard gravity well, which means big, massive ships, they not play nicely. And then we're going to try... Oh. Still having no trouble with that.
Landing gear deployed.
Okay, now I've got to get a decent look here, because I'm not 100% sure about the... Yeah, there we go. It's windy. And I'm not sure I completely fit on this pad. Well, it could be worse.
Engines offline.
We'll shut off the engines, and we are going to hop on out and pick up all those packages. Carrick is a ship that you can move around in. It's got elbow room. Now, since we are on the night side of Microtech, it is likely to be a little bit chilly outside. So, what do I mean when I say chilly? I mean it is a balmy negative 31 degrees Celsius. And it is snowing, which means, well, snowing, sleeting, whatever it's doing. Which means things are going to start getting very wet on my faceplate in no time at all. And I'm not entirely sure where the entrance to this building is. And my headlight is giving me almost nothing here. Ah, I think I found it. Yay! Okay, let's wipe off the faceplate. Yes, we actually have a command where you can wipe off your faceplate. It came in last year. I can turn off the light now. And let's see if I can find the package. I am in the right building, aren't I? I'm gonna feel pretty stupid if it turns out I'm not. One package, two package, three package. I'm walking right by it. Fun fact: if you want to know where you're going, if you look at the top here, you can usually tell what section of these buildings are. This is kind of a hydroponic area, it looks like. Whoa, they got grass growing through the floor here. I guess okay, there we go. So that's a graphics glitch, but you can see all the vegetation in here. So, hydroponics here. Over this way, you've got more hydroponics. Okay, this is clearly the hydroponic building. And if you see something that looks like a guy walking towards something, that's the exit. So, you know, fun facts. Now, if you look at the ground around here, I don't know if it's because of lighting or not. It's not necessarily all snow. We've got this, not quite grass, but for lack of a better phrase, we'll call it grass. I did park the ramp the exact opposite side of where I wanted it to. When you're carrying packages, sadly, you usually cannot run. You have to basically move at your maximum walking speed. If you're on a moon, it's helped a little bit because you have the low gravity. Uh-oh. Is that ramp not all the way to the ground? That could be a problem. That could be a major problem. Well, the good news is, if it's not reaching the ground entirely, at the very least, it's also not in the way. It's not high enough that I can't jump on it. Okay, package 2. It's a pity you can only carry one package at a time. Now, in the PTU, there has been the introduction of trolleys. I have no idea how you acquire them. I have no idea where they would be. But it seems logical to me that if they exist, then what you'd want to do is take a trolley out for these areas that have multiple boxes in one building and pop them. Boy, those bits of branches really don't want me to go past them. Pop them all in the trolley and make one trip. I foresee that the trolleys are going to become very popular, and not just for the crazy things. And believe me, I expect crazy things off of trolleys. Now, what we have here is also crate terminal. So, what do they sell here? Let's see if there's anything entertaining here. Diamonds! Oh, you know what? We'll load up on diamonds. I'm not going to get a huge amount of profit off of them, but, you know, it fills the cargo area. Why not? Of course, it's also about to chop off a very large chunk of my wallet there. Really, if I feel like it won't be too hard to recoup, I'll just do a bunch of bounty hunting missions and get all that money back within about 3, maybe 4 group missions, depending on the risk threat rating. Okay, second box. By doing this, I am making a gamble that the server will not crash on me. Of course, you could also make a case for the fact that, now that I have done so, I have guaranteed that the server will crash on me. But the way I see it, if I have to make a stop at New Babbage anyway, I might as well make some funds while I do it. The thing I hate most about normal gravity worlds is that I've got to take the long way around to get on board the ship again. I really made a mistake when I decided to land in that direction. I really should have faced the other direction when I landed. I've added the entire length of the carrot to my back and forth runs here because I landed the way I did. Learn from my mistakes, everybody. Don't be me. Now, since I mentioned the cargo, I should probably point out, down back here is the cargo, and there's basically 3 cargo pods. And in the future, these cargo pods will be detachable. You might even be able to replace them with something else. But for now, they are cargo pods, and they are nice and full of all that cargo goodness. Whether or not I'll actually get to sell that cargo is still an open question. Okay, one more package. getting my exercise on. You can hear me going puff, puff, huff, puff. Some of that might be the spacesuit. Or the fact that I'm wearing armor. Seeing the old heart rate going up to 100 beats per minute and climbing. What am I hitting out here that I keep bouncing on? Open sesame. It always amuses me that they have these pressurized airlocks on Microtech. A location where, thank you, they have a normal atmosphere. I could do all this just wearing standard clothing. Of course, admittedly, it's freezing cold. So, you know, regular clothing may not be the smartest thing to do here, but you could do it. Oh man, it is windy, it is snowy. I can barely see the ship, much less the landing pad. And I see that chat is degenerating, so there's no point in keeping that up. Okay, just a little more, and then we can start delivering these packages and getting them out of our hair. And at the same time, take a look at some of the hopefully brighter spots in the system. As in, areas that have the sun up. Okay, despite my best efforts, I have managed to get on board the ramp one more time. Now, if I had been a smart guy, I might have taken the rover out to pick up the packages. That probably might have been a little faster. Because there is room to store the packages on board the rover. All I can say is, oops. So up and out. Now, New Babbage is going to be the absolute last stop here because the whole point here is to check out the various regions around Microtech, and going back to Microtech is kind of counter to that. So let's look at the possible destinations here. And I think Calliope is the major one here because Cleo and Euterpe are out of the way. So we want to drop it in Rayari Caltag Research Outpost. We'll do that first at any rate. There's another package elsewhere at the mining facility. There's nothing really exotic about what's available here. Although I think Raven's Roost is one of those places that might have been off the radar originally. But thanks to the last patch, all the hidden criminal-like locations have become visible. And I have not heard anything about them disappearing with the next one, so they're probably still there. Oh yeah, it would help if I turned the engines on.
Online.
Note to self, it is very difficult to take off if your engines do not activate.
Takeoff complete.
Now, since we're still on Microtech, we're going to have to get a little bit of altitude before I can do a quantum travel. Microtech has envelope, for lack of a better phrase, of around 11 kilometers up. Legend doesn't like that the criminal outposts are marked now. It takes this part of the game away, in his opinion. And that is an opinion that I share. I mean, let's think this through logically. You're a criminal. You want to remain under the radar. You don't want the UEE, the United Empire of Earth, to bring the heavy end of the hammer down on you, or even worse, those crazies from the Civilian Defense Force. So naturally, the last thing you want to do is put up a quantum beacon saying, "Hi, here I am." I think you can understand the problem with that logic there. Now, granted, it made it more difficult for you to get to, because you couldn't quantum in into the location. I mean, if you took a criminal mission, you would see where it was, so, it's not a question of not being able to find it. But being able to zap there instantly, how would you like it if suddenly a squadron of retaliator bombers came by to drop bombs on your criminal enterprise? Bam, they're there, they drop their bombs, bam, they're out, and meanwhile you're in a smoldering ruin. They wouldn't do this. They wouldn't want to do this. But that's the way it is right now. Do I agree with it? I do not. It's part of the criminal experience, yes, finding the place. However, and this will surprise nobody who has listened to any of my streams in the past, I was not consulted. What a shock, right? We'll see what they do when the pyro system comes in. Will they put quantum beacons on there with all the criminal activity that's supposed to be going on there? I think not. You'd be like, "Hi, Xenothreat lives here. Don't mind us. Yes, we did invade the Stanton system a couple months back, but hey, it was nothing personal." I'm sure that the United Empire of Earth would disagree. I was aiming for the wrong package there. That's embarrassing. Don't tell anybody I did that. Now, I will say I feel a little bit better about using the carrot to deliver packages than I did about the 600i. Especially the 600i Touring, which is really not suited for package delivery. I can at least justify it on this vessel. Alright, it looks like we're going to be on the bright side of the moon here. A little slow rotation here. Let's see if I can get a decent exterior view. It's still a little dark out. Looks like it's kind of the sun fog on it. Morning fog. But as we get lower, you'll see that we're definitely looking at some serious ridge lines down there. And we are currently about 1.3 kilometers up, which means we are approaching the ground a little faster than I'd probably prefer. Because landing on the ground hurts. Of course, crashing into the side of a mountain would hurt a lot worse, so pay attention. And this is why you make sure you always have your headlights on at night. I don't need the headlights on right now, though. The nice thing about Star Citizen starships is, unlike your average automobile, you can leave your headlights on for an extended period of time, and the battery will not die on you. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience or anything like that. Nobody can prove it. Let's drop the landing gear. It's perfectly possible that the outpost I'm going to may not have a landing pad.
Landing gear deployed.
Maybe I should put the headlight back on. Oh, no, they do have a landing pad. Although it looks like it might not be a large landing pad. Oh, wait. No, it does have a larger landing pad. Thank heavens. So I should be able to set down on there, and let's do something crazy and actually have my ramp aimed towards the main set of buildings as opposed to the back end this time. Okay, let's come in for our final approach. Angle it up. Forward, go forward. Stop, down. Let's take a look. Yeah, I might be a little too wide, but, you know, there's very little you can do about that. No, I think Goldilocks had put it here just right.
Engines offline.
Hop to the elevators. Now there is a ladder that you can get through on this hatch, except this hatch naturally doesn't work. And that's because there's a problem right now with the way climbing ladders are. It basically handles either the end point, basically at the end points. You can't get off in the middle. But I think there's tech that's on the way sometime this year, which may fix that. And if that happens, then we may actually see that door available again. So it's something to watch for. That is package 414, so that's this one. Now, Calliope is a light gravity moon. Honestly, pretty much every moon is light gravity, and every planet's normal gravity. How that works out, I'm not entirely sure. You can see it is very cold here, minus 100 degrees Celsius. In my current armor, I will die in 25 minutes of exposure. Now, that may not seem like a big deal if you're doing something like this, which is basically coming in, delivering a package, or picking up cargo, or whatever. Not a big deal. If you're, say, mining a Grey Cat rock, which is basically a four-wheeled vehicle that you use for mining, that's where it gets a little rougher because it's exposed to the elements, which means you'll be spending a lot of time dealing with it. And you could very easily use up that half hour and freeze to death. Now, for those who are unaware, there is a new variant of the Grey Cat rock on the public test universe right now. And it's a bigger rock. It's a two-man rock. One person operates the mining laser, one person drives. But here's where things get a little entertaining. The guy who's driving, he's in a nice, comfortable, climate-controlled seat. The guy who's in the mining laser is exposed to the elements. It sucks to be the mining laser guy. Don't be the mining laser guy. Word to the wise. You can see that it's kind of barren here. It's kind of what you would consider a traditional moon-like environment. Let's see if our other location on the moon has anything more interesting to look at. Now, the Microtech area and the moons around it, they tend to not be as entertaining as, say, Hurston. Well, nothing really is entertaining as Hurston. Oh, for those who are just happening to stumble upon my screen right now, allow me to introduce you to my co-pilot here. Pico the Penguin. If I should wind up incapacitated while I'm flying, you can count on Pico to do the right thing. Right, Pico? He's a quiet type. Let's not interrupt his meditation. Yes, Pico. Master of all he surveys. And anything that you might have seen that indicate that he might be an elder god of Lovecraftian proportions, that's just rumor. You should pay no attention to that.
Engines online.
Especially if you see screenshots of him kind of floating in midair, hovering over the useless worms who worship him.
Takeoff complete.
But you didn't hear from him. Now, Calliope, like many other moons, does not require you to get too high up before you can start quantum traveling. So I can start figuring out where I want to go now, with the expectation that I'll be able to do a drop-off by the time that I get out of this map. Actually, it's probably more of a danger that I'm going to get too close to the moon again before my quantum spooling finishes up. Playing Ranch Simulator while you watch. Ranch Simulator. As in cowpokes, horses, lariats, yeehaw, that kind of ranch simulator. Raising them horses. As probably one of the more interesting game concepts I've heard. There really is a game for everything. Kinda all you have are a couple of chickens so far. You know, that doesn't sound anywhere near as glamorous. And I can tell you from a friend's personal experience that raising chickens is not easy. Yes, I do have a friend who has raised chickens. It's chill. Apparently you have the very cooperative kind of chickens then. Ah, okay, you grew up in the country, so you're somewhat familiar with this sort of thing as well. Me, I've always been suburbs, so I can't relate. That is not an indicator that I'm looking upon the idea of going into the country with any great pleasure. I'm just fine where I'm at. ECN network intrusion. Somebody is trying to break into one of the comm satellites. Just for giggles, which one is it? ST2, so that indicates somewhere around Hurston. The number after ST generally gives you an idea of what planet it's nearby. If it's ST1, it would be No, actually, ST2 is Crusader, actually, now that I think about it. ST1 is Hurston. That makes sense. Crusader is around Grim Hex, and Grim Hex is a hive of scum and villainy. That makes sense. ST3 would be ArcCore, and Microtech would be the ST4. And it makes sense because ST stands for Stanton. So Stanton 1, Stanton 2, Stanton 3, and Stanton 4. Okay, let's take a look at things. Evaluate the best way to approach. There are no good choices here, so I might as well just go in this way. You know, it's really depressing that I'm running into so many of these places on the night side. I mean, if if you're going to be looking over places, you want to at least have them in the sunlight. Let's get our landing on.
Engines offline.
Alright, Pico. You have the con. I think after we deliver this particular package, we're going to take a look at the other side of the moon here, so that we can actually get a good look at the moon. Even if I don't land, at least there'll be a section that has sunlight, so we can actually get a feel for the atmosphere. All these dark places, they just aren't doing it. 238, that would be the sky. Open the door. Hopefully I managed to back the ship up for, yeah, plenty of space. Sometimes I have a worry that the ramp is going to go off the landing pad, and that makes it difficult to get back on board. I have, however, a few precautions taken. First, if I have not gotten off the ramp, I can always go back in the ship and take the snub ship out, and, well, then again, I can't deliver a box to the snub ship. See, maybe I should have used the Pisces after all. But then we have my second alternative. I did make use of the medical bay, so I can always expose my helmet to the void of no atmosphere, die, and recuperate back inside my ship. This will not always be the easy out that it is now. But since it is at the moment, I am willing to take ruthless advantage if I have to. Just cut the tree down and it fell on your four-wheeler. Oops! It's Valheim all over again. Trees are dangerous. Kapow! Alright, let's... Oops. I almost knocked myself off the ship. That was embarrassing. Okay, next step, we're going to go to the other side of the moon. Because, darn it, I want to show the good stuff. Okay, Pico, you're relieved.
Engines online.
One of these days, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a section on my OBS software where I can basically slap a picture of Pico on the screen at random. Just because I can. I do weird things sometimes. I don't know if I'm demented enough to make Pico the official mascot of the stream, however. Alright. I think the first thing I want to do, actually, skip the map. I want to find orbital marker 1. And the reason I want to find orbital marker 1, well, orbital marker 3 might be good too, but orbital marker 1 I like. Because orbital marker 1 is basically the North Pole. From orbital marker 1, I can easily select the best direction to go in order to find the light side of the moon. Is that orbital marker 1? Or is that another, no, that's 5. I don't want 5. That is the wrong direction. Orbital marker 1. I would have also been content with orbital marker 2, which is the South Pole. Now, from here, I should be able to easily determine where to fly, where I have the best chance of seeing sunlight. And it looks like that's going to be over here at Cuban SPMC 11. We're not actually going to land at Cuban. I mean, the only reason I could have to land there at this point would be, you know, cargo, and I'm full up. But I do want to get us to altitude and environment where we can take a good look at the surface of this moon. And we can kind of consider it kind of typical. And yeah, we'll angle over here where you can see very well-defined craters. Level out, level out. We want to fly low enough to see things. We don't want to fly so low that I turn into a mass of twisted metal and broken penguin flesh. Okay, so here we go. Very rocky, snowy / icy. I'm not entirely sure which of the two really qualifies here. But if you think moon, this is basically your stereotypical moon. Alright, now, while my delivery tells me that I should go to Microtech to offload my last cargo box, we're going to be going to one of the other moons instead. So let's pull our focus on this map out a little bit and see which is the closest moon. Cleo! I'm going to freely admit that I like Cleo for reasons that will become apparent once we get there. Presuming, of course, I can get to the right general location. And quantum travel doesn't want to cooperate, so I gotta break off the alignment, realign, recalibrate, and then it should work. Yes, even in the future, computers don't work. Now I can see a very clearly defined terminator, shall we say, for the sun. So we're going to hop over to orbital marker 3 first. And then we will plot the approach from there. Okay, this is where things get interesting, because I don't think I'm going to be able to quantum to where I want to quantum. So we are going to do this the hard way. We are going to make the approach just like this. And there's a reason for this. Because Cleo is not your usual type of moon. Unfortunately, to get an appreciation of it, I have to go somewhere that doesn't have a readily handy quantum beacon. We've done this sort of thing before. We were doing the trip to Daymar. We stopped over at the crashed Javelin site. Had to do something similar. There is, as far as I'm aware, no equivalent to the crashed Javelin here. While we are on approach, let's take a quick look at the map here. We're going to try to look at the map. There we go. Where's Microtech? And Cleo. there isn't a whole lot of places to land here, Standard. We've got 2 outposts, both of which are Rayari aligned. So there really isn't much reason at the moment to come to Clio. Unless you're a tourist. Or an explorer. And conveniently, we are in an exploring ship. Still not low enough, though, for the altimeter to show up. But it probably won't be long, and just like Daymar, when it does show up, we're going to want to be slowing down rapidly because it is not going to give us a whole lot of leeway. And there it is, 32 kilometers up and closing rapidly. When you're moving at well over 1 kilometer per second, that is not a lot of time. Anytime you want to hit the brakes would be just fine. 15 kilometers in closing. And when I say closing, I really mean, oh my god, the ground is coming up to us like nothing. Okay, we're getting more rational now. I can start leveling out. Now, first blush, we are looking at a surface similar to Calliope. We can see the craters. But that is not the most fascinating part of it. The fascinating part is over here. Hopefully I'll be able to find a flat surface to land on, but if not, I have alternatives. Okay, almost there. Cut the cruise control. Your eyes do not deceive you. You are looking at an ocean. It's probably not, traditional ocean, meaning it's not H2O ocean. Let's see, over here looks like a place I might be able to set down.
Landing gear deployed.
Level off. See if I can set down without bashing any rocks or something like that. It's not going to be perfectly flat. Well, it's not going to be perfectly level because the shore here is not perfectly level. And it's also perfectly possible that my ramp is not going to touch the ground there. So let's open up the exterior from here and see if it'll make it all the way down. I think it's close enough. It's a low gravity moon, so I think I can get away with it.
Engines offline.
If not, I will do the traditional method of opening up my helmet. I don't think that will be necessary. Now, I really wish they had done more with Clio, and to an extent the other moons of Microtech. There aren't really a whole lot of points of interest around here, and I think that's kind of a sad waste in a way. On the other hand, there's still time. Alright, let's get a little closer. And it definitely, you definitely can see that it's definitely liquid. Yep, you definitely like gravity. It's probably not a good idea to go swimming. Although, if I was going to try it, today would be it. I mean, I do have my Carrack right over there, and I did tag the medical bay. But no. But you've got wave action, you've got... Well, you know, we have wave action. I guess you really can't call it tidal action, because this is a moon. So I guess it would be Microtech acting on Cleo instead of Cleo acting on Microtech. And again, I feel compelled to mention that this is probably not water, because we are currently at a balmy minus 81 degrees Celsius, which is well below the freezing point of water. So I would think that this would at the very least have some very large icebergs, if that were actually water. So it's probably not water, it's probably some kind of liquid something or other with a lower freezing point. Methane? Your guess is as good as mine. But I do like the water, the way they got the water working here. They got the way it laps on the shore, some tidal action. As far as I'm concerned, that is the big selling point of Cleo. Which is a pity that there are no other selling points on Cleo. So, that's basically Cleo. It's basically the standard wasteland, except it has water. Or, it has liquid. I also don't recommend you try drinking it, because that will probably have all kinds of unwholesome side effects. All right. And that leaves Euterpe. The last of the Microtech moons. Yeah, there may be one other area that I want to check out. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to get the map, and I don't know if it's even still there. Let me pull out the map. Come on, map. Work with me here. Okay, my map wants to be cranky. Fine, I'll wait until I'm out of orbit. Let's close everything up. One day, they're going to allow you to open either the front or the hangar separately, as opposed to both at the same time. It could be very concentrated salt water. You could be right on that, Legend. I don't know enough about the whole oceanography, planetology. I haven't made a study of oceans, so I really couldn't tell you one way or the other. I'm sure if I looked hard enough around the various lore sites for Star Citizen, it would have more detail. Possibly. Things to think about. Let's power up the old engines.
Takeoff complete.
And take to the skies. Personally, though, I kind of like to think of it as some sort of really highly acidic water that if you try to put your hand into it, it'll eat your hand off. Then again, I have been known to be somewhat twisted at times. We all have our little character flaws. And I'm still not getting the map. There we go. See, Merry Christmas. It is still here. Okay, we will have another. We will be making another extra stop after this. But first, Untitled. And I'm going to freely admit that I could very easily be pronouncing these incorrectly. I mean, I'm pretty sure about Calliope. And I'm pretty sure about Cleo. But Untitled, I'm not 100% sure about.
Landing gear raised.
And I keep forgetting to take care of the landing gear. Okay, first things first. Orbital marker, and I believe that's the comm array. And if you've seen one comm array, you've seen them all, so there's no great need to visit the comm array since we've done so in an earlier stream. And we'll probably do so again someday. Oh, right. Let's see. Is there anywhere that's... Bud's Growlery. Well, it'll get us to the ground faster. Hopefully it's on the light side here. And hopefully it's not going to take us over the curvature. I have a bad feeling that it will, though. Oh, bad feeling confirmed. I did not want to do that. I did not want to do that.
Bottom drive is now off.
Let's flip back around the way we came. And let's see if I can head towards the lighted horizon. We'll crank that speed up. Run towards the light! Run towards the light! We do seem to have a somewhat thick atmosphere because I can't hit anywhere near a kilometer per second here. Maybe if I get some altitude here. Still nowhere near a kilometer per second. I was hoping to get a little more speed out of here. Oh, there we go. Now we're climbing. Now, rumor has it that somewhere along the line in the not too horribly distant future, we should be getting compasses. So, at which point we might be able to tell whether or not we're heading towards sunrise or sunset. Alright, let's start heading back down. We seem to have the sun shining down now, and we can start taking a better look at what lies below. And from the looks of it, we can probably say that Untitled has a better claim on being Hoth than Microtech does. Because it looks like nothing so much as a solid ice sheet. Now, you know, some of the things that are coming into the 3.13 patch are supposedly new cave systems. And I wonder if they've managed to, or even thought about putting some of those caves on the moons of Microtech. Because I feel like Microtech really could, or at least their moons, could really use some more reasons to be here. I mean, why put all this effort into making a moon if you're not going to use it as a set piece for something? but it's not nearly as cratered as the other moons, which kind of gives me more backing to say, yes, this is a big sheet of ice. I'm also moving way too fast when I'm only 100 meters above the ground, which means if I'm not paying attention, we will become one with the ground sooner rather than later. I think that Europe is ripe to be one of those moons where they have some of those sinkhole caves. With all this flat area, it feels like it would be perfect. Now, I am going to admit that this is almost a generalization because I can't say that everywhere on Europe is a flat ice sheet. I'd have to fly around a lot more to make the comment. All I can, and that's the same for the other moons too, and Microtech itself. Microtech, in fact, is a good example where you should not consider a sample space to be the whole planet, because while we have a lot of icy areas in Microtech, there are places of, dare I say it, temperate environments, where you can literally walk around without wearing an environmental suit and not have to worry about freezing to death. In fact, maybe we'll take a stop at one of those places. Let's get out of here. But first, we have one more stop. We're gonna have another stop to make before we go to Microtech again. And this is kind of not precisely Microtech, but it's a point of interest that I feel should not be forgotten, even though its current purpose is done. What I speak of is a little area called Jericho. As it shows in the upper right corner here, Jericho is the main port of call for the UAE, Navy, and Stanton. And it's supposed to provide logistical support, refuel, resupply, for a variety of capital ships and smaller support and combat vessels. What does this look like? Well, that's why it's our next stop. So first we have to stop at the quantum beacon for the MIC L1 station. Well, technically just MIC L1. We don't have to actually go to the station itself. MIC L1 being one of the Lagrange points for Microtech. MIC L1 and its space station became the main spawn point of everybody during the Xenothreat event, which is long over now, but it was the first dynamic event in Star Citizen, and there were parts of it that were awesome and parts of it that were maybe not as awesome. I thought it was a pretty fun event for what it was, and it represented some of the progress being made in the game, where you could do this kind of event, where you could basically have an event that mixed cargo haulers and starfighters, big ships and small ships. I liked it anyway. So, if I can get this thing, I am aiming for the wrong marker here, aren't I? The problem when you're carrying cargo is that you always have a marker pointing to your cargo, even if it's your cargo deck. So, what is Jericho? And we've got a number of sentry turrets out here, and I should probably slow down because I'm approaching a little too quickly. Oops, I'm about to dodge that one. It's basically a kind of an 8-spaced station, and the arms are basically on either side of where you could dock capital-sized ships. During the Xenothreat event, there was a Javelin destroyer that was basically shacking up here. Obviously, the Javelin is gone because the event is over. Okay, now what I'm going to try to do, just for the giggles here... Oh, first things first, let's stop turning and make sure there's nobody around before I... Because I don't want to accidentally hit the station when I'm doing my turns. We can see that it's pretty well armed, more or less. What I'm going to try to do, just for the giggles here, is I'm going to see if I can get my ship kind of docked where you would expect it to dock. And it would be similar to what's being done for the ship-to-station docking that'll be coming in 3.13.x, where x is an indeterminate number that will one day apply to something. Now, if memory serves... Okay, there we are. On the left-hand side of the ship here, like right down here, we have a docking collar. So what I'd like to try to do is see if I can get that aligned up with one of those gantries over on the left-hand side. Okay, it's going to have to be one of those closer gantries. Okay. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to pull this off. I'm just kind of curious to see if I can. I don't think I'm going to, and the reason for that is because of the wings on the Carrack. Yes, I know, technically they're not really wings. Which key is that lets you move your viewpoint again? Okay. For those who have Star Citizen who are interested in doing things like the third-person thing and moving the camera around, here's how you do it. If you're using a standard keyboard, you use F4 to get you to the third-person view. To rotate your camera, you hold the letter Z down, and you can move your mouse, and that will give you basically moving the camera around the viewpoint of your starship. However, if you want to be able to move the viewpoint somewhere other than your starship, you can press F4 and one of your directional arrow keys to move in, out, left, right. If you continue holding the F4 key down and use page up and down, you'll be able to do your up and down movement. Now, when you're doing the F4, moving the keys around, you are moving the viewpoint area. You're moving the camera. So if you go back to doing the Z and moving the mouse, it will no longer rotate on your ship, but on where your camera is located. So if you're someone who really enjoys taking screenshots and you want to do stuff like this is how you do it. And I can see by having done so that there is absolutely no way I'm going to get that gantry to line up with my docking ring, because the wings of the Carrack are going to smack into the side of the Jericho long before I'm close enough to get that gantry into the docking port. Now, there will come a time when you'll be able to dock and it will probably extend out or something. Well, it won't happen here. It won't happen here because INS Jericho is non-functional. I mean, it didn't even do anything useful as far as resupply, rearm, or anything like that, one more thing. If you hit F4 and you hit the asterisk key on your keypad, it will reset everything, which is always handy once you've, done enough damage to your viewpoint and everything. Now, I don't think I'm big enough to land on Jericho. Or let me rephrase that. I think I might be too big to land on Jericho. Yeah, I might be too long, and I'm definitely too wide.
Landing gear deployed.
So you know what? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat.
Landing gear raised.
I'm going to step outside. And we are going to make use of that razor that I was mentioning earlier in the stream. And then we'll land that. So we're going to go upstairs. I'm going to open up the hangar. The Misk Razor, for those who are unaware, is labeled as a racing starship. It's designed for speed. It is not the fastest ship in the game, however, or even the fastest accelerator. But I like the look of it, so I went with it over the F-50, which is an Origin ship. Up, out, flip around, and now I have a ship that can land on one of these landing pads. Let's make sure that I'll try to be appropriate and go on one of the small pads. They have room for multiple ships here if they land properly. It does not have any auto land features, so you've got to do it the manual way. And the reason I'm getting out of here is because, you really can't appreciate the scale of the station until you're standing on it and walking around it. And I think this kind of gives you a much better feel for the scale of the thing. It's got a normal gravity environment here, unless you jump off the side, at which point 0G takes over. During the Xenothreat event, you would gather cargo from a location and deliver it here. But
If you're here for cargo, that terminal over there is what you want.
however, right now, you aren't able to deliver a darn thing. You can't buy anything here either. Its sole purpose in existence was to support the Xenothreat event. Whether or not it will have further purpose later on down the line, your guess is as good as mine. Elevators, they don't work. And like I told you earlier, the refueling and all that don't work either. Now, if you go down over here, okay, yeah, this is one of the gantries that I was trying to get to. Although, from the looks of it, it'd be kind of hard to walk onto it because this bar doesn't look like it goes anywhere. So that may have been a poor choice on my part to try to get there. You can see over the railing here, we've got doors out there. And I think there's additional landing pads on the other side there. They're on the lower level. Let me see if I can get closer. Run, run, breathe, breathe. Yeah, you can see the ladder there. So we'll be able to go down there. It's like nobody comes here anymore for some reason. Possibly because there is no reason to come here. Unfortunately, what I don't see is okay. There's an elevator access, which again doesn't do anything. Completely inaccessible. And it doesn't look like there's any other further way down, so I can't see quite. Well, we'll go back up here anyways. I can take a quick look in the Razor. Yay, we're back to where we started. So let's hop back into Razor and take one more peek at that interior area without having to worry about, you know, gravity. I never shut the engines off, so
Launch sequence complete.
so let's zoom over here a little bit. Turn, turn, drop a bit. Kick on the lights. So you can see it looks like we have additional landing pads here. Designed for small ships, apparently. I would imagine this is where they would launch fighters from. Personal guess, I can't prove any of that. And you've got something similar on the other side there. Why they would have them facing inwards as opposed to outwards is a mystery for the agents. Yeah, that's one of those things to ponder. Alright, that takes care of our Jericho tour. So it's time to land back into Carrick, hopefully without blowing up either one of them. Either the Carrick or my Razor. I used to be able to auto-land in here, but somewhere along the line that got disabled, so I have no idea why. But it doesn't really make me happy. So you gotta manually set down. I'm pretty sure I manually set down. I seem to be a little off. There we go. So our last step is to go to the aforementioned temperate area on Microtech. Presuming, of course, that I can locate said temperate area. Let's close up the hangar. And just for the giggles, because I can, we're going to fly the ship from the upper bridge. The command station here is what I like to think of as proof of concept that co-piloting will be possible. Because I can fly the ship from this station.
Anvil Aerospace. All systems online.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's proof of concept that co-piloting is possible, can happen, and should happen for all the ships that have co-pilot seats. That they should have functionality similar to this. They just need to put in priority. For example, if somebody is in the pilot seat, the co-pilots should not be able to fly the ship. If the pilot is not in the pilot seat, a co-pilot should be able to fly the ship. I feel that should be the direction it's going. Whether or not it actually will be, well, as a small green Jedi Master once said, always in motion, the future. Star Citizen is proof enough of that. I can do pretty much almost all the functions I can do from the pilot seat here. I don't have the MFDs, so, you know, life is not completely perfect. Well, actually, I do have a couple MFDs, but they're just not well situated. I only have 2 of them, I don't have the target or the targeting, self status, target status, all that kind of thing. I can bring them up. I mean, I can swap out the shield power here, but really, if you're in a command station, you're not going to really care about too much at the same time, theoretically. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure. So what I'd like to do is I would like to get to OM1, because again, North Pole is a great place to determine where to go. But if I can see the generally temperate areas from where I'm at, and I might very well be able to.
Bottom drive is now off.
All right. Okay, well, let's try to go to one of those temperate areas. They seem to be not invisible, but in my visible view. Here we go. I don't believe there's any places I can quantum to that would work out here. So we are going to do the old-fashioned standby of head to temperate area at top speed and hope I don't slam into the planet. Luckily, the altimeter should kick active at 100 kilometers away, so I will have at least 100 seconds to slow myself down. Surely, in a little over a minute and a half, I can slow down the ship enough to avoid splattering. Surely. Well, while we're doing that, yes, it takes guts to abandon my station while we're moving at top speed towards the planet. But I want to relocate myself back down to the lower bridge and take the pilot seat again. Pico, don't crash us. Early, the wealth of information you get from the pilot seat in comparison with the command center makes the pilot seat far better suited to, well, flying the ship. You've got 5 multifunctional displays here, and your call-out display if things are happening like, I don't know, too much, you're overheating, your missiles are locked on you, stuff like that. Now the problem is, even at 1.1 kilometers a second, it's still going to take a bit of time. It's always one of the hazards. But I'm always happy to go the extra mile for my viewers. Yeah, I mentioned that the Carrack has a number of weapon systems. It's got 4 turrets, and they basically cover pretty much most of the firing arcs you're going to run into. Starboard, port, dorsal, and ventral. If you have a fully loaded set of turrets, you should be able to have at least one turret able to target somebody at all times. If things go well, you might have multiple turrets focusing on people. If someone is crazy enough to be in a spot where 3 can get at you, well, that's going to hurt. The turrets I've got on this Carrack at the moment are non-standard. Let's see, let's bring that up. Well, they were non-standard the last I looked. Things happen, you know? Yeah, basically I replaced everything with Rhino repeaters, which are laser guns, for lack of a better phrase. Repeating weapons, decent rate of fire, no ammunition required. And that was a big deal because while ballistics have their place, I feel that it would be far too easy to run out during an extended engagement when you're dealing with turret firing. So while I do have a preference for ballistics under many circumstances, this is not one of them. For turrets, I always tend to prefer the laser. And not all lasers are created equal. Another set of laser repeaters are attritions, but they're close-range weapons. You probably don't want to be dealing with somebody in close range with Garrick. I mean, you could. I wouldn't recommend it. Words of the wise. We are moving at a leisurely 1.2 kilometers per second velocity at the moment. I really hope we get to the ground before the sun manages to dip below the horizon, because that would be very embarrassing. Change my vector of approach slightly. I want to make sure that I end up in a temperate area and not in one of the snowy areas. We will get there. We will get there. Slowly but surely, we will get there. As you probably figured out already, the way you can determine if you're heading somewhere temperate is aim at something that isn't looking icy. You can see patches of brown and discoloration. Then you're probably aiming at a spot that is more temperate. The only downside is I don't really think there are very many outposts that are set up in the temperate areas. And that means you gotta do it the hard way, like this. On the bright side, since we're going to be hitting the atmosphere at a pretty good clip, it's perfectly possible we'll be setting the Carrick on fire as we land. The good news is I'm using very little in the way of thrust right now, which means I'm not burning up a lot of fuel. I mean, looks like in fact, I think my fuel's been ticking upwards because of fuel scoops on the Carrick that allow it to refuel in the void space in the atmosphere of a planet. And I should say hydrogen fuel more than anything else. It's not refueling the quantum. But if you're using low thrust, your fuel scoops may be able to refuel your hydrogen, which can be a lifesaver if you're really low. So, keep that in mind if you find that you really don't want to go to anywhere that'll refuel you, because there are people who want to shoot you. That you do have alternatives. Slow alternatives, but they exist. A lot of ships have these fuel scoops, at least to a certain extent. How well they work, it varies. One of the big things on the public test universe right now, in fact, involves doing some work on the Mercury Star Runner's fuel scoop, which has been identified for several months now, is probably the primary reason why fuel has been so insane with the Mercury. Hopefully the folks who are testing that in the public test universe will be able to shed some light onto how successful these fixes may be. Insanely, I am still over 100 kilometers over the surface of the planet. Clearly, when I was quantum jumping here, they decided to take me on the scenic route. Oh, sure looks like we're closing in pretty good. Legend has not been in his MSR in the PTU. Understandable, understandable. Everybody has their priorities as to what they want to look at when they're in the PTU. Check out the new hotness. I get that. Nothing wrong with it. We'll all find out, I'm sure, before the end of the month. Oh, how about that? We're in the atmosphere now. I see my altimeter dropping like a stone. That is the special Korith marker of, oh god, slow it down and start pulling up. Because we are about a minute away from impacting the surface. At my current rate of speed. Ah, good point. Legend points out that PTU is currently too unstable to check out anything. Yeah, I get that. Hopefully that is something they will get worked out sooner rather than later. When fixes happen, they will happen fast and furious. It's hardly the first time PTU has been a mess. Okay, we're down to 500 meters since closing, and we are 30 kilometers up. I could probably have stood to keep the acceleration up a bit, so why don't we put a little English on that, as they say. "25 kilometers and closing." The next challenge, of course, will be finding somewhere relatively flat to land. That's always a hazard when you're dealing with large starships. Finding a spot that is large enough and flat enough for you to land and open your ramp. Although, as we have seen, I don't necessarily need the ramp. It's just a preference. And we are under 12 kilometers. Under 10. And it currently occurs to me that maybe I should consider leveling out a little bit. Because it's probably going to hurt if I try landing nose first. Mike Helverskov, hey, welcome to my stream. You are new to Star Citizen and trying to get some info on how to actually play the game. Well, I guess the first obvious question would be, what kind of starship did you pick up for your starter package? That helps inform the things that you can do right away. Okay, you see all the pine trees here. I'm going to cut my speed entirely. Level myself out. Pray I don't bounce. There we go. And let's see if I can find somewhere that I can set down. This may actually be a decent spot. Maybe third person view again. Just picked one, the Mustang. Okay, so the Mustang basically will put you into a definite dogfighting sort of scenario. Oh, I am not flat. Let's see.
Landing complete. Takeoff complete.
Have I landed on stone? The Mustang is definitely a dedicated dogfighting starship. So you will probably be working on some of the early bounty hunting things, most likely. The Mustang doesn't have any room for delivery boxes, so you have chosen to engage in a life of thrills and danger. This ship, at the moment, well, actually, yes and no. It's kind of complicated. Most of the ships that are available for pledge at the moment can be purchased in-game for a certain amount of AUEC, which is the credits you earn in-game. I'm not entirely sure what the number on the character is right now. I want to say it's like close to 20,000 maybe? Not 20,000. 2 million? Maybe 12 million? 5,000 is a basically starting kind of thing. That's probably the 5,000 you got for just buying the package and playing the game. Or, yeah. So, you will be able to earn that kind of money very quickly in game. Not a problem. Yeah, there we go. Legends already pushing the cutlasses. Buying those Drake pieces of garbage. I recently did a bunch of streams that I called the Aurora MR Challenge, where I basically took a ship that you would get from the Aurora starter package and was able to work my way to using a Cutlass Black by being able to earn the money to purchase it in game. I don't think that's what he meant, Legend. But when you, unless of course that was what you actually meant. But you'll end up, how best put it? It really depends on how you want to approach the game. Whether you want to approach it with real money or whether you want to approach it with in-game money. One will cost you, well, actual money. The other will cost you just the time it takes to earn the credits. Now, the good news is that bounty hunting right now is no, you do not have to buy the Cutlass with real money. The Cutlass can be purchased in-game at the new deal shop at the landing zone of Lorville on the planet of Hurston. You can buy it for 1.4 million credits. That may sound like a terrifying number when you're comparing with your 5,000 you have now. But the truth is, it's not as scary as it sounds. Yeah, I knew that would be a reaction. I knew you'd be going, ah, no! Million, ah! But it's not as horrible as it sounds. Let me pop up and let me see. Do I have any examples I can work with here? Okay, this is a horrible example, but this is something to start with. There's a fellow that I have a bunch of group missions, and the lowest payout on my set of group missions right here is 17,000. This is a bad example, however, because this particular set of missions comes from a mission contact that you can speak to in the game. What you're more likely to do is when you're starting out, when you're in a star system, I don't know if you started in Lorville or New Babbage or Area 18. I always recommend Lorville in the Hurston planetary area because they always have a lot of bounty hunting missions. Yeah, there you go. You gotta pay 500 UEC. What that's doing is that's giving you a license to hunt. And trust me, you will make that 500 UEC back in no time flat. I am dead serious here. Once you get the license for that, you'll start getting bounties for very low risk targets. And once you kill very low risk targets, eventually you will get an offer to buy a license, again for, I think, 1,000 UEC perhaps, I can't remember the numbers, which will go for low risk targets. You'll do that mission, and you'll be able to hunt low risk targets, and they'll start paying you for these things. And they'll go from low risk to medium risk to high risk to very high risk. And once you get to the very high risk targets, that's where you can start really raking in the money. Because at that point, you can start doing group missions of very high risk targets, and you can get at least 60,000 credits with each successful completion. 60,000. So that 500 is a starting point, and it seems like a lot right now. It's like 10% of what your starting funds are, but you will make that back very quickly once you've gotten the hang of dogfighting. One thing that I do not necessarily recommend to start with is you'll see some missions that are for suspect apprehension missions. Those are your PvP missions. You will not want to do PvP in a Mustang. Well, maybe you will, but it won't end well, most likely. Although it might. Depends a lot on how good your target is. But I wouldn't recommend it. But as you go through the game and you start earning credits, you will be able to rent starships. You don't have to buy the starships in-game. You can also rent them for, say, a day or 3 days or a week or even a month. And you'll be able to try out some of the other starships in the game without paying excessive amounts of credits and finding out that you don't like it. When I was doing my Aurora MR challenge, I started out using the Aurora, and eventually I got enough credits where I could start renting the Anvil Arrow, which is basically a light fighter, jet fighter. It's actually not horribly hard, it's just broad. Legend is a good guy to help teach you some of the stuff in this game. Legend has a pretty good understanding of the stuff in this game. He can definitely set you on the right path. Although ignore anything he says about Drake, because, you know, cutlasses are basically garbage use. You don't want to do that. Okay, I am going to admit again that Drake, starships, and cutlasses in specific are not as horrible as all that. But I will never pass up a chance to rag on them. I personally prefer the Mist Freelancer over the Drake Cutlass. But again, it depends a lot on your preferred style of play. The fact that you took a Mustang tells me that you are interested in the combat experience. And if you're interested in the combat experience, the Cutlass is the way to go over instead of the Freelancer. If you are more of a cargo hauling sort of person, I would go with the Freelancer over the Cutlass. Of course, being me, I would go with the Freelancer over the Cutlass anyway, but, you know, that's just me. Well, you know, you are right on that. The Aurora, if you look at the Aurora, you think, my God, I'm flying a brick. It literally looks like a brick. It's not exactly impressive. But what it does have, the Aurora does have, is large enough room to put in a box where you can do box delivery missions. And box delivery missions are boring, but they do get you out to see the general various planets and moons. They do pay all right. And they actually fight pretty decently too if you purchase a few extra guns to load onto the ship. And it's also possible that you might want to be looking into using that. You said you had 5,000 credits. One thing I would do is I would hit F1 to go into your Moby class. I would go to your vehicle loadout manager. I would go to select ship and select the Mustang. Ah, what happened? Where did my screen go? Okay, that was weird. I would go to the weapons tab, and I would make sure that every weapon has a gun. Right now, for example, I've got a right wing and a left wing that are empty on this Mustang. You will find that the more guns you have on your ship, the better you're going to perform. So, when you get a chance, make sure that you have weapons on your wings, you have weapons in your turrets. Ideally, they're going to be... Oh, let's see, are they? Size 1, size 2. Okay, they won't necessarily be the same type because the size of your turrets are bigger than the size of the wings. Oh, maybe. Actually, they might all be size 1. I'm not 100% sure. I can't really look right now because it's read-only right now. You can only fiddle with these things if they're stored or not called up. Basically when they're in dock. Missile racks would be good too, but they're not crucial. I am presently in one of the temperate areas on Microtech. Microtech is commonly seen as an ice planet, but as you can see here, it is a balmy 8 degrees Celsius, and we're walking around with plant life all over, pine trees. And if you're really, really lucky, if you look around enough, you might find a tree trunk that's kind of like broken off. It may be a white tree trunk. It was when I found it, at any rate. And it has a little object called the Heart of the Woods inside, which can be edible. Do I still have mine? I do. Oops, that was not smart. Let's try this again. It takes a second for things to come out of inventory. There we are. And we'll do an inspect on this so I can see it. And strangely enough, as gruesome as it looks, it is apparently edible. I saw one of the folks in my organization eat one of these, and he didn't seem to die from it, so I'm going to assume that it's actually somewhat healthy. I've been carrying it around because, you know, I will probably never find it again, so I might as well hold on to it until the next character reset happens. Okay, so we're going to take one last trip. I do have that last package that I never delivered after all. Of course, I'm going to be trying to deliver it flying a Carrack. So this is going to be interesting. This may not have been the smartest thing I've ever done. Off to the bridge. My co-pilot there can rest easy knowing that I'm about to take command again. Time to leave the temperate areas and return to the cold.
Engines online. Takeoff complete.
Again, the one thing I want to emphasize is that once you pledge for your starter package, you do not have to pledge any more real money. Every ship, well, almost every ship that you can pledge for that currently exists in the game can be purchased in the game. Got a ride to Port Olisar. Is that a good planet? Well, Olisar isn't so much the planet, it's orbiting around the gas giant Crusader. And I like Port Olisar because it has a lot of stuff that a starting pilot would find useful. You can buy personal equipment, personal armor, personal guns. You can buy parts for your ship, including weapons. You can buy clothing for your character. Olisar has a little of everything there, and it used to be the place for new players to start. However, Port Olisar has a dark side too. There are some jerks who exist in this game, and they will sometimes go out of their way to haunt Olisar and do their best to kill off people who happen to be near there, because they're jerks. And half the reason they get away with it is because Olisar makes use of landing pads that are basically exposed to the open. It's very good to learn how to practice how to land, but it also makes it very vulnerable for the aforementioned jerks to either try to shoot you, or, worse yet, try to crash into you. Now, if you don't know how to join somebody's server, what you would do is, when you go to the menu and you see your friend on the friends list, you right-click on the friend's name, and there may be an option that says Join Server. It's also possible that that option will say Server Full, because it can only handle about 50 people at a time. So sometimes you may have to be persistent. It's one of the challenges of the game right now. They are working on a way of dealing with that, but whether it'll be done this year or not remains an open question. Might actually be easier for Legend to get onto your server, because Legend is very practiced at trying that. Ooh, Idris is up. No way I'm gonna fight this thing though. Alright, time to go to the other side of the planet, where it's probably dark at nighttime. Yeah, if you get a server full message, it's not going to put you into a queue. It's basically going to say, server full, you can't do a thing about it, and you have to basically keep trying. So basically, you're going to become very experienced at right-clicking on a friend's name and trying to join the server. Even when it says it's open, sometimes it lies. It's not a perfect thing. One of the things I have to emphasize, that I cannot emphasize enough, is that this game is still in an alpha state. The fact that we can fiddle around with this and do all this stuff is something that ordinarily we would never get a chance to do. But since we're all paying the money to back the game, we've been given this opportunity where we can basically play it around, do all this kind of stuff in it. But we have to understand that the game is very much still in development. So there will be things that drive you crazy on a regular basis. Like server crashes. Yeah, you just found out one of the little display areas. Yes, sometimes you'll see things like 48 out of 50 and saying it'll say it's full. That interface will lie to you sometimes. Yeah, Legend is a good person to get to know when it comes to things like dogfighting, because Legend is a far better dogfighter than I am. I'm more of a gifted amateur. Well, not even a gifted amateur, honestly. Yeah, Legend has just pointed out one of the many game loops in here. He is currently mining asteroids. I'm assuming he's doing it as an asteroid and not on a rock on the surface of the planet. There are ships that will allow you to mine rocks and get them refined and sell the ore. You can buy cargo ships where you can deliver cargo deliveries. The folks at CIG have nothing but seriously ambitious plans for this game. There'll be salvaging, exploration. There's going to be a lot to the game. But, as you may have been able to guess from the length of time it's taken to get this far, it's slow going. Okay, I better slow down my approach because I'm about to get to drop off a package onto a pad that's far too large to land on. Thus bringing up the obvious question of, good God, why would I do a thing like this? The answer, of course, is because I can. Sort of. Phase 1 is level myself out. I need to be leveled out because otherwise it's not going to work. The second step is to avoid splatting on the ground. I'm going to cut my speed limiter there so that I don't go too fast by accident. This is New Babbage on the world of Microtech. New Babbage is the newest landing zone in the game, and so it is indeed the prettiest looking area in the game. Area 18 reminds me a lot of the low end part of Coruscant from Star Wars. And Lorville is basically an industrialized area. I'm going to get to my third person view for a minute here, because what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to... Oh, that's windy too. That's going to make things difficult. Okay, well, let's see if I can kind of game the system here. Oh, I have no idea if I'm going to pull this off at all. If I can get myself to the point where one landing gear is on the ground, maybe that'll keep the rest of my ship from being blown away by the wind. No, that is not happening. I may have chosen poorly. The fact that it's windy right now is going to make this a little uglier than I want. Okay, let's reset my camera view because that is not helping. Alright, you know what? Let's not be insane. I've done insane things, and this might be too insane. Instead, I'm going to open up my communications and call the folks at the spaceport. I can't call the folks at the spaceport because I'm not close enough yet. Okay, I can adapt. Let's bring up the landing gear, get myself some altitude again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to land at the spaceport, and I'm going to take my landing box with me, and then I'm going to go into a smaller ship that I can land on that pad, and that will solve my problem. In theory. Now all the lights ahead of me is basically telling me where the spaceport is. So let's see if I can get there at a decent rate of speed. While I'm at it, let's do some third-person view arrangement, because landing a big starship does have its challenges, and part of those challenges involves being able to land the thing inside of a hangar. It is night, so I'm going to turn on my floodlights. They're not going to have too much of an impact yet, but as I get closer, it should help. Let's see, communications. There we are, 14 kilometers away and closing. Let's open communications.
Please proceed to assign landing bay.
There we go. And that indicator there on the right-hand side, that little circle with the little down arrow, that is telling me where the hangar is that I have to land upon. You'll see that sort of thing for pretty much anywhere you can land. So landing at Port Olisar, for example, if you call them and you ask for a landing pad, that'll indicate what landing pad you want to land upon. Now, because I'm such a significantly large vessel, I'm probably want to cut my speed down a little bit as I make my approach. Okay, let's see. Which hangar am I in? Okay, I'm not in the one I was hoping I was in, so I gotta swing myself a little bit so that I'm lengthwise to the hangar that I need to land in. The wind is again going to make life entertaining. But I think I should be able to pull this off. Collision alert is bothering me a little bit. Okay, third person view, because now it's kind of getting important. Drop the landing gear. Be smart. Don't be like me and forget to drop the landing gear on a regular basis. That'll just be embarrassing. Descend. Descend. Descend.
Landing complete.
And down.
Takeoff complete.
Mostly.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
Alright, I'm going to power everything off. I will let Pico guard my bridge. Pico, the ship is yours. So we are going to grab a somewhat smaller starship so that I can land at that pad and get rid of that last box. Unfortunately, I need to take the box with me when I do this, because otherwise it'll despawn with the rest of my ship. That would be defeating the purpose, just a little bit. Close it up. One of the nice things about the various landing zones is that they all have their different character to their landing phase. And some of it's pretty recent too. If you land at New Babbage, you'll see that it looks different than if you land at Lorville, which looks different than landing at Area 18. It also looks different than Olisar, but Olisar's days are theoretically numbered. Because the time is coming later this year where Olisar will be, shall we say, subsumed by the landing zone of Orison, which will literally be in the atmosphere of Crusader. Orison is basically Cloud City, and it's going to be really impressive once they put it in. But once they put it in, Olisar may go the way of the dodo. I think that's a waste personally, but as has been often the case, I was not consulted. Alright, here we are at the New Babbage Spaceport. Seems awfully empty today. Oh, there's someone over there. I'm going to store the Carrack. I'm going to try to store the Carrack. Ah! Okay, fine. Drop the box, as long as it doesn't go anywhere. And we're since I spoke earlier of the Freelancer. Oh, well, okay, we're not going to the Freelancer. It's currently in a different location. Do I have anything else here that might be able to carry it decently? Don't tell me that all my cargo-related ships are elsewhere.
From the best in shopping.
Most of my cargo ships are elsewhere.
Be sure to visit new laboratories.
How about 300? 300's big enough to fit a box.
Be sure to explore all new Babbage has to offer. Whether it's the latest in cutting-edge technology or the beauty of our award-winning
There will be vehicle retrieval terminals on every landing zone that are similar to this. Hangar 4.
From all of us at Untitled welcome to the new Babbage is 734.
Now this ship is the Origin 300i, which is basically a luxury touring ship. It's writ small. It is not a huge starship, but it's nicely appointed. Let's get that invite taken there. And I'm going to set the package down in here. Such a nice vessel. I might have to turn my chat on now, won't I? I've had the chat off since it was deteriorating into one of those messes. That happens occasionally. So let's open up the communications. Ask them to let me out, because if I try to do this... Yeah, the 300i is a pretty nice ship. There are multiple variants of the 300i. There's a 325, 315, and they each have a generalized purpose. One's a fighter, one's a pathfinder, which is kind of an exploration variant. It's a pretty decent ship. It's a shade above a starter level. It can fight pretty decently. It's not my first choice, but then again, I have my preferences too. And now that I have my package on this ship, we are going to finally drop this thing off. Because now this ship is small enough to land on that landing pad. And then we will finally be able to earn that massive 8,000 credits. Well, I wasn't really doing this for the money anyway. But a contract is a contract. Origin does make pretty good looking starships. If you look at the 300s, if you look at the 100s, if you look at the 600i, if you look at the 890 jump, they all definitely have a distinct look to them. They're basically constructed by the in-game manufacturer of Origin Jump Works, and they definitely tend to go towards the high-end customers. You can go ahead and purchase a personal weapon. They're useful for ground missions. You can do first-person shooter style missions in this game. Yes, as legend tells you, don't forget to buy ammo. In fact, you should also consider buying armor, because they allow you to equip other weapons, multiple weapons, carry multiple ammo cartridges, and so on and so forth.
Landing gear raised.
Oh, they're not as expensive as you think. They only look expensive right now because you haven't had a chance to earn funds. But trust me, that attitude will change quickly. Alright, let's get out of the ship and dump off the cargo. There we go, turned around for a second there. Submachine guns, I feel, are always a good choice because I like to think of them as my, oh my god, they're going to kill me weapon. Basically, I like them for panic attacks. I don't use it as a primary weapon. If I'm doing a first-person shooter mission, a lot depends on if I'm going with a group of people or if I'm just going by myself. If I'm going by myself, I'm going to go with a sniper rifle most of the time. If I'm going with a group, I will choose something else. Why is my ship bouncing? I better get inside before it blows up. Get me in. Oh yeah, submachine gun ammunition does go quickly. That's what happens when you go onto a ship that has a high rate of fire. I landed without my landing gear down. No wonder I couldn't auto land. That's annoying.
Engines active.
We're not going to tell anybody about this, are we? Alright, back to spaceport. Once I locate spaceport. Where's... oh, there we go. And that will leave one more thing to do for me today. After all, as folks may recall, early on the stream, I was going around picking up a large amount of diamond cargo. And to my great surprise, we have not had a server crash. Quite possibly because everybody's trying to get into the public test universe and crashing that instead. So I may be able to sell that stuff off and not lose a whole bunch of cash. Let me get... yeah, I do have a preference of snipers. They're the kind of thing that can take out your target without them knowing you're there, and you can clean out a good chunk of a bunker mission if things go your way. If things don't go your way, that's what the submachine guns are for. Now, since I'm in a small fighter, I'm going through these side hangars as opposed to top hangars. I'm probably approaching this. Oop, well, that was a mistake. Too much snow. Alright. Let's remember the landing gear this time, Korth.
Landing gear deployed. Landing automated.
Oh, hold on there. Let me see if I can get that thing to show properly. Or better yet, thank you. I know the chat rules. I wrote the chat rules. There is a link to the writer's Discord at our org page. I had that chat command up for quite some time. I just usually don't have an occasion to use it. And that's available to pretty much anybody watching, you know, interested in taking a look at our organization. Legend set the thing up, and we all get along pretty well. Even when we're putting each other in prison. Some of our membership have permanent rooms assigned to them for their constant visits. Alright, so we're gonna... Oh, yes, yes, indeed. You can go to prison. If you're a bad person, then prison can happen to you. Yes. Their Klesher Rehabilitation Facility is always open for new customers to go in and work off their sentence. Now, to be fair, prison is not as horrible as I make it sound. The maximum sentence you can get is 12 hours. And that can easily be cut down to almost nothing by working off your time by... Yeah, we'll find out soon enough. By working off your time by either doing some mining, hand mining of ores and materials, or repairing oxygen kiosks. Those will get you merits, which will reduce the amount of time that you spend in prison. The sentence you get depends on how bad your crime is. If you're like Legend, for example, you will probably have a lot of 12-hour stays if you want to reduce that as quickly as possible. Or, alternatively, if you decide that doing all that work is too much, you can attempt to escape prison. Of course, that requires some help from the outside as well, because trying to escape prison involves going on the surface of an extremely hot planet, and that requires getting to the surface by means of a number of cave systems that are challenging. Yeah, New Babbage at night is pretty nice, but if you want to see a place that looks nice at night, Area 18 at Arc Core. When I think of a city in lights, Arc Core definitely qualifies for Area 18 on Arc Core. I should be more specific. Ammo will be under the Attachments tab instead of the Weapons tab when you go to the store. Now, hopefully the doors will open on this thing. Well, it seems that this particular train is somewhat broken.
Doors are now closing.
They're not open! Let me in! Well, actually, I guess it's technically let me out. I'm trapped on Blaine the Mono. Expert props to anybody who gets that reference. Okay, so it looks like I'm gonna have to get sneaky. Here's a pro tip. If you are trapped on the train at New Babbage, if the door doesn't open, go to the next stop. Usually, it will open at the next stop. And if it does that, then all you need to do is go out of this train and go on the train on the other side. Of course, you may be in bigger trouble than that if the door doesn't open here either.
Careful, doors are now closing.
You know, when I had the quote there about writing eternal, this is not what I meant. And now I'm going to end up back at the spaceport. Presuming, of course, that the train doors open. I may be forced to haunt the railways for all time. Trapped forever on the Microtech Metro. Unable to ever escape. You know, there's a short story here. I should consider writing it.
Nearing next stop.
Now, if doors don't open here, then I'm going to wait one more stop where I'll try to get off the commons again. And if that doesn't work, then there is only one alternative left to me. Oh, the doors open here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to catch the next train and hope that their doors work better. Crested Sock, welcome to my stream. Yeah, Star Citizen is a very visually impressive game. It is still in development. It still has more bugs than a Starship Troopers movie. But people are still playing it. It's still a fun time if you can accept that weird things will happen, up to and including server crashes. If you can accept all that, it is one hell of a game. I picked this game up about a year and a few months ago, and I regret nothing. Okay, let's see if this train will let me out. Otherwise, I will be once again trapped on the metro loop.
Doors are now closing.
Untitled Chapter Microtech. Thank you for the follow, Crested Sock. I do the streams for Star Citizen every week. I do it on Saturdays, starting at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So I have a pretty regular schedule as far as that goes. Occasionally I have to skip out a week for certain real-life related reasons, like I had to last week. But usually, I will be in game every Saturday at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern and having ourselves a fun time. Today, mostly I've spent doing a tour of Microtech and the surrounding moons, as well as a brief pit stop at INS Jericho, which is still there even after the Xenothreat event. Even though you can't actually do anything there anymore. And I'm trying this last bit of work to sell off some of this cargo that I have sitting in my carriage, waiting to be gotten rid of. And the door still doesn't want to open. There may only be one way out here.
Careful, doors are now closing.
Doors are closing my foot. Bang on the wall, bang on the door, bang on the glass, let me out! I'm gonna die of dehydration on the trains of Microtech. In hindsight, I should have brought more of the blue water. Yeah, you can see what I mean by the glitches here. This used to happen all the time on the trains in Lorville. Actually, what would happen all the time in Lorville was even worse, because they would have trains stacked on top of each other, and you could go inside one, but the other one would go. Horrifying, horrifying. Oh, this one opened up. Excellent. If I hurry, I can get onto the other train on the opposite side. And that'll get me to where I want to go.
Careful, doors are now closing.
Now, if the doors don't open at the next stop, then it's going to get really embarrassing.
You've exceeded the allotted time to depart. We will have to return your ship to storage.
I'm okay with my ship being stored. I wasn't really planning on doing much flying with it at this point.
Initiating ship storage.
I just want to sell
For
cargo.
your safety, please vacate the area. Thank you for your cooperation.
And it's not even going to net me a whole lot of profit either, so come on, guys, work with me.
Initiating ship storage procedure. For your safety, please vacate the area. Thank you for your cooperation.
Okay, here we go. We're approaching the station. The moment of truth.
Nearing next stop.
Open, 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 open. Yes! Yes! I'm free! I'm free! They tried to keep me down, but they failed. I'll head to the New Babbage Plaza. We'll take the shortcut to the factory line here. Got to go, but I'll watch the stream another time. Hey, I'm always glad to have anyone stop by. You'll be able to find the VOD on here for the next couple weeks, and I also archive this onto YouTube. So, if you feel like abusing yourself for a few hours, the videos will be there. Thank you for joining the stream and following Crested Stock. Oops, I'm walking right by the terminals. And carrot. And we're going to sell that diamond. I think I made about 40K off of that. That's not too bad. And got it. And hopefully this will go away soon, because having this as an artifact on my screen is annoying. Doesn't matter. It's gone. I have the money. That's what counts. And I think that is going to do it for the stream. This has lasted a little longer than I usually run, but that's why I say it's approximately an end time. I will, of course, be streaming Star Citizen again next week, as I previously mentioned, starting at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern to approximately 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern, unless, of course, I happen to just be kicking things around and doing what I'm doing. I also stream Star Trek Online on Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern. So if you have an interest in seeing that game, stop by that evening and say hello. And again, thank everyone for watching, whether you're watching it now live or on YouTube or Twitch later on. I'm always happy to have people watching. I hope it's been entertaining. Thank you all very much. This is Korath Landwalker, signing off.